we discussed about parallelogram law and the special cases from that. So let's take a quick recap of that concept. So as far as parallelogram law is concerned, what we saw is if two vectors are drawn from the common origin like this, then we can complete the parallelogram by drawing the other two sides parallel to each of them. And for this parallelogram now, the two diagonals that we get, they will respectively become the sum and the difference. Okay. So the primary diagonal, which is from the common origin to the opposite side, that becomes the sum, and this angle becomes alpha. Okay. And the secondary diagonal, which is from the head of one vector to the head of the other vector, that becomes the difference. Okay. The two vectors, and this angle becomes the beta over here. Okay. So rest the formula and all is the same that you're used to, the triangle law formula, etc. But more importantly, the special cases of this that we saw. So one was the case where A is perpendicular to B, or theta is equal to 90 degrees. So it becomes a rectangle. So rectangle has that important property that the diagonals are equal in length, okay, and they also subtend the same angles. So in terms of vector algebra, the important property that you have is that the magnitudes of the sum and difference become equal, okay, and also this angle here becomes equal to this angle. Okay. For the rectangle, you have this special case that mod of A plus B is equal to mod of A minus B is equal to square root of A square plus B square. Okay. And alpha is equal to beta, which is equal to tan inverse of magnitude of B by A. So in terms of vector algebra, this is what comes from the special case of perpendicular vectors. Okay. Now similarly, another important special case that we had discussed about was the case of the rhombus. So if magnitude of A is equal to magnitude of B, okay, in that case we get a rhombus. Okay. And the important properties of the rhombus become, geometrically the properties are that the diagonals bisect each other perpendicularly. Okay. So this diagonal A minus B and this diagonal A plus B. So first of all, they are perpendicular to each other, and secondly, the diagonals are also angular bisectors. So if this angle is theta, here this angle is equal to this angle, and here this angle is equal to this angle. So we have the important properties of the rhombus, that the vector A plus B, so let's label these properties separately. So the important properties of the rhombus here is that the the vector A plus B is perpendicular to the vector A minus B. Okay. And secondly, alpha is theta by 2 and beta is 90 minus theta by 2. And then trigonometrically we can also show that this magnitude of A plus B becomes 2A cos theta by 2, and the magnitude of A minus B becomes 2A sin theta by 2. So this becomes a sort of shortcut situation, but of course these are true for the special case that magnitude of A is equal to magnitude of B is equal to A. So this was the very important application of parallelogram law in these two special cases. Okay, one is when we are dealing with perpendicular vectors, and the other is when we are dealing with vectors of same magnitude. So we saw that a lot of different types of questions can be solved easily by this. Okay, and of course we had also seen the inequality theorems. Okay, also we had seen the inequality theorems. Okay, so for example we had seen that if theta is less than 90 or it's an acute angle, then a plus b is greater than a minus b in magnitude. Okay, and also a plus b is greater than root of a square plus b square, which is greater than mod of a minus b. Okay, because cos theta is a positive quantity. Then similarly we had seen that if theta is greater than 90 degrees, it's an obtuse angle, then it's the other way around. Okay, then a plus b has a magnitude which is less than the mod of a minus b. Okay, and in fact a plus b's magnitude becomes less than root of a square plus b square, which becomes less than mod of a minus b. So this was also additionally we had seen how to visualize this from the parallelogram law, etc. Okay, so this was basically what we had discussed in the last lecture. Okay. Now moving on, let's look at some example questions based on this today. So given that magnitude of a plus b is equal to magnitude of a minus b is equal to 25, and magnitude of a is 20. So find magnitude of b and theta, that is the angle between a and b, alpha, the angle of the vector a plus b with respect to vector a, and beta, the angle of a minus b with respect to the vector a. Let's start with this question. Yes, you have seen this in the previous lecture. Okay, Siraj, yeah. Till now we were discussing the recap from yesterday, from last week's lecture. Okay, so don't worry about that part. You can see it in the recording later. Just pick it up from this question. Try this question out yourself. Okay. Just start with the question. I will show you the part we were discussing earlier also. Yes, very good, Deep. That's correct. So, Siraj, just for your benefit, I'm showing you the part we were just going through moment earlier. This is a recap of what we discussed in the last lecture, parallelogram law and its special cases. Anybody else who got the answer apart from Deep? Yes, Bhargav, that's correct. Good. Okay, so now see, the moment you look at this first statement here, that magnitude of a plus b is equal to magnitude of a minus b, instead of doing any formula based calculation, you can just think directly that that means the vector parallelogram has equal diagonals. Okay, so that basically means that the parallelogram is a rectangle, it cannot be anything else. Okay, so therefore theta is equal to 90 degrees and magnitude of a plus b equals to magnitude of a minus b, which also equals to square root of a square plus b square. So this 25 equals to square root of a square, which is 20 square plus b square. So this shows you that okay, b is 15. That's one thing done. And also alpha is equal to beta is equal to tan inverse of b by a. So that means tan alpha is equal to tan beta is equal to b by a, which is over here 15 by 20 or 3 by 4. Okay, so that shows you that alpha is equal to beta equal to tan inverse 3 by 4, which you know is 37 degrees. Okay, so now that you understood this, you can also just visualize the rectangle, and that will justify what we've discussed here. Two vectors perpendicular to each other having magnitude 15 and 20 will always have this situation that the sum and difference will be of same magnitude 25 and they will be at the same angle with respect to A. So A plus B will have a magnitude of 25, and from this triangle you can see this side is 15, this side is 20, so this angle has to be 37 degrees. And similarly it's the same case, the other triangle is a mirror image of this triangle. It has to have the same angle 37 degrees and this has to have the same magnitude. So it makes things very simple in solving like that. Okay. Right, let's do another quick example. Okay, so just try this out. Right, anybody got the answer for this part now? Yes, very good. Yes, that's correct. No, yes, your answer for A minus B is correct, but A plus B you have to check again. Deep, your answer is correct. Good. Okay, so I'll do two things here. I'll give you a hint on how to use the theorems here, and I'll also give you the final answer. Try to work it out yourself. So this thing, this statement here, this is implying that the vector parallelogram formed using A and B, okay, has perpendicular diagonals. So you go back to the special theorems and you recall that what is the condition for the diagonals to be perpendicular? That means the parallelogram must be a rhombus. Okay, and then use properties of rhombus. Okay, so that is use the fact that alpha is equal to theta by 2, beta is equal to 90 minus theta by 2, and A plus B is 2A cos theta by 2, and A minus B is 2A sin theta by 2. Okay, you can do this, you can use these properties, or alternately you can, once you're sure that it's a rhombus, you can also solve it geometrically, or solve geometrically by drawing the rhombus. Both will be equally easy here. But you have to catch first of all that you are dealing with a rhombus and not some other type of parallelogram, not a general type of parallelogram, but this specific type of parallelogram. So how you will catch that point from the language given in the question. Yes, very good. That's correct, Tariq. Bhargav, your answer is correct. Yash, your answer still you have to check beta once. Okay. So let's see everything here. Yes, Tariq, A plus B is correct for you. Okay. So anyway, so what we had got here was that A plus B was perpendicular to A minus B. Okay, that was one thing, and also alpha was 60 degrees and magnitude of A was 20. So one way is that you use the formulae. Okay, and because of this you understand that it's a rhombus. Okay, so for the rhombus you have the formula that alpha is equal to theta by 2, that is 60 degrees. So the angle between the two vectors is 120 degrees. Okay, and of course magnitude of A is equal to magnitude of B. Okay, so that is 20 units here because of this. Okay, and now you use the formula that beta will be 90 minus theta by 2, so that will be 30 degrees. Okay, and use the special formula that magnitude of A plus B is 2A cos theta by 2. So it is 2 into 20 into cos 60, which is 20, and magnitude of A minus B is 2A sin theta by 2. So that is 2 into 20 into sin 60 degrees. So that will become 20 root 3. Okay, so these are the special formulae that we are using for the rhombus. This one, this one, this one, and this one, and that's becoming our answer set. Okay, so we are getting theta equal to 120 degrees, we are getting mod B is equal to 20 units, mod of A plus B is also 20 incidentally over here, and mod of A minus B is 20 root 3 units. Okay. So these are the results that we are getting, and as you can see they are very simple results once you know which formula to apply. Okay, students, there's a request to all of you that if somebody is not connected to this group by their real name, then please use your real name. Okay, change your name in the Zoom meeting immediately to what your actual name as your student is. Okay, anybody who is not visible here by their actual name in the Zoom meeting, please rename yourself immediately. Okay, this is a serious thing. You must make sure that you are logged on with your real name and not by some nickname or some. And ideally use your full name, okay, your name as well as your surname, because your attendance is being monitored and all that. Okay, so anybody who's not logged on with their name, please rename yourself immediately. Alright, so hope all of you understood this algebraic method. Now, alternately, you could have done one more thing, that you could have just, once you've realized that it's a rhombus, you can actually draw the rhombus. Instead of doing the formula, just use the geometrical shape. Okay. So you'll understand that it's the moment you see that the sum a plus b is making an angle of 60 degrees with respect to a, you'll realize that if this is the vector a of magnitude 20, its vector sum with b is the one which is like this. This is at 60 degrees and this is a plus b. And on the other hand, what is also happening, the difference of the two vectors is perpendicular to it. That means you will realize that the other diagonal will be like this. It will be cutting it perpendicularly. So it has to be a diagonal like this. So that being the case, you can see that the second vector is definitely making an obtuse angle, and that obtuse angle will be how much? It will be double of this 60 degrees because it's a rhombus. Why it's a rhombus? Because the diagonals are perpendicular, so it can't be anything else. It has to be by default equal sides. The four sides have to be equal. Only then this angle can be 90 degrees. Okay. So these four sides are equal. So you know that the magnitude of b is also 20, and therefore now you know that the angle between the two vectors a and b, this is becoming 120 degrees, because alpha, as you can see in the diagram, is 60 degrees. So okay, and then you can just work this out geometrically. So in any of these triangles, any of these right angle triangles, you can see that what is happening is that this angle is becoming 30 and this angle is becoming 60 and this side is 20. So if this is y and this side is x for this particular triangle, you can see that x is going to be 20, okay, into half, because that angle is 60, and y is going to be 20 into root 3 by 2. So from that you can see that mod of a plus b is going to be 2x, so that's going to be 20, okay, and mod of a minus b is going to be twice of that side y, so y is 10 root 3, so that is 20 root 3. So little bit extra work we are doing in the sense that we are applying trigonometry here. Here we were directly applying the formulae, but it's one and the same thing. You can see that's how it was derived. Okay people, so are you all clear with both the methods that I've used in this question here? Okay, good. Okay, so this is about the special cases of parallelogram law, and I think in future you will not have difficulty with these type of questions if you just remember these facts. Okay, now moving on to the next aspect of vectors. So today we will see the situation of three-dimensional component representation of vectors, or basically what is called a vector in three-dimensional component form. So component representation of vectors in a three-dimensional coordinates frame or coordinate system. Okay, coordinate frame or system of axes, and henceforth we will just call this a 3D system. Okay, so first of all we have to understand a 3D coordinate frame, how that looks like. Okay, and the axes involved in that. Okay, so this is also called a rectangular coordinate system or a rectangular frame. The term rectangular is used in the same instance as this. Okay, or it is also called Cartesian system. So these are all alternative names for the same thing, three-dimensional coordinate frame in the Cartesian system. So in this system, the frame consists of three mutually perpendicular axes. Which typically we denote as x, y and z axis. So mutually perpendicular, what this means? This means that x axis is perpendicular to y axis. X axis is also perpendicular to the z axis. Okay, and of course y is perpendicular to z. So all the pairs, any one axis paired with the other, any other axis, it forms a perpendicular pair of lines or perpendicular pair of axes. Yes, very good. That's a good way to visualize it. Siraj, that's a correct way to visualize it. I'll explain it to you. Okay. So how we can represent this geometrically? Now this is going to be slightly up to our imagination, because remember we are drawing the diagram on a two-dimensional plane, but we have to imagine that we are drawing three axes or three lines which are mutually perpendicular. So inherently in a two-dimensional space we have to make a three-dimensional diagram. So visualize this like this now, that suppose this line that I am drawing and this axis which I am drawing, they are the edges of the front wall in the room which you are sitting in. Okay, so currently you are sitting in some room, okay, and in front of you there's a wall, you are sitting on a floor, and on one side of you there's a, so this is the floor, okay. Then there's a wall in front of you that you're looking into straight, and there's a wall to your left which you're looking at sideways. Okay, so imagine that this line that I've drawn is actually this edge. Okay, so I'm taking this as my x-axis. Okay, this corner point is this corner of the room, and this line that I'm drawing is our y-axis. Okay, and similarly this edge is our z-axis. So this forms our system of mutually perpendicular axes. This is how we visualize it. Okay, you have to understand that in this is perpendicular to this is perpendicular to this, and this is also perpendicular. So the x and y axis together, they are forming an xy plane, which is like the front wall that you're looking into, the wall that you're facing. So this is the xy plane, and this will be perpendicular to the the plane formed by the x and z axis, which is like the floor on which you are sitting. So this forms the xz plane. So imagine this like the floor on which you are sitting. Okay, and imagine this as the front wall, and similarly to your side there is another wall which is perpendicular to the one in front and also perpendicular to the floor. So that is nothing but the yz plane. Okay, so you can see that the system of mutually perpendicular axes, they also form mutually perpendicular planes, that is xy, yz and zx. Okay, so this is a three-dimensional coordinate frame. Okay, so this is a three-dimensional coordinate frame, the way we visualize it, or what is called a Cartesian coordinate frame. Okay, or also called a rectangular coordinate frame. They are one and the same thing, all these names. Yeah, I'll give you time to write down that part, but first you just learn to, you just visualize this thing. Okay, so you have to imagine that in this two-dimensional diagram, the axes that you are seeing, they are not like three lines which are at 120 degrees to each other. They are not that type of figure, because the three axes are not lying on the plane of the screen. They are actually mutually perpendicular. So this is the thing you have to imagine. So imagine the x-axis to be the edge or the corner edge between the front wall you are looking at and the floor you are sitting at. Similarly, imagine the y-axis to be the edge, which is the corner of the two walls, the vertical corner of the two walls, that one. And similarly, imagine the z-axis to be the edge between the side wall which you are seeing to your left and the floor on which you are sitting. Okay, so this is how we represent a three-dimensional system. Okay, so just make a note of this first. Okay, then next up we will look at how to represent a vector in this kind of system. But before representing a vector, we have to understand what a three-dimensional system itself is. So this is what a three-dimensional system is. So make a note of this part, please. Okay, so once we have understood how to draw our coordinate system, now I'll give you another way to visualize this coordinate frame. Okay, write this down, no problem. Yeah, forget about that. That's, I'm just explaining that this is not a system of three lines which are in the same plane. So in that case, they would be at 120 to each other. This is not that. This is a case where the three lines are actually three-dimensionally placed. So they are at 90 degrees to each other. Okay. So another way to visualize this is just imagine you have constructed like a rectangular box. Like this. Okay. This is like a rectangular box, and now what you do is you just assign one of the corners of the box to be the origin and assign the line along one of the edges to be your x-axis, the line along one of the perpendicular edges to be your y-axis, and another one to be your z-axis. So this is your system of mutually perpendicular xyz axis. Okay. So again you can see that the xy plane or the xz plane is the floor of this box. The xy plane is the wall on this side, and these are three mutually perpendicular systems or three mutually perpendicular planes. So again you can visualize that over here. So any vertex is taken as the origin of our system, and three mutually perpendicular edges from that origin, they become the axis. Okay. They become the x, y, z axis. So this is another way to visualize this. Okay. Now once this visualization is done, the next thing we'll see in component representation of vectors. In three-dimensional system, we define the base unit vectors. Okay. They are defined according to this system of units. This system of axes. I cap and j cap, just like we had seen before in the two-dimensional system, but along with that there is one third unit vector which is k cap. Okay, so I cap is the unit vector along the positive x-axis or x direction. Like that, j cap is the unit vector along the positive y-axis, and this time k cap becomes the standard name that we use for the unit vector along the positive z-axis. Okay, so I cap, j cap and k cap are vectors of unit magnitude or magnitude equal to 1, okay, and mutually perpendicular. So now you can visualize I cap, j cap and k cap like the three edges of a cube of unit dimension or length unity on all the sides. So if we visualize a perfect cube like this, okay, of side length 1 unit, then each of these sides becomes our I cap, j cap and k cap respectively. This vector is I cap, this vector is j cap, and this vector is k cap. Okay. This pointing along the positive x-axis, this one pointing along the positive y-axis, and this one pointing along the positive z-axis. So now in component representation, any given vector in component form will be written as the sum of three components Ax, Ey and Ez. This is how we will represent a vector in component form, where Ax is what we call the x component of the vector E. Ey is the y component of the vector E, and Ez is now the z component of vector E. Okay. Ax, Ey and Ez are scalar quantities, okay, which can have positive, negative, or even zero value. So nee, there's no question of theta over here. Okay, these are just components. Okay, that cos theta sin theta thing Harsh will not be applicable here because we are talking about three dimensions here, no? So I'll explain. Instead of theta, we will have some different notation because now we are in a different three-dimensional system. So first of all, let us understand that what about the magnitude of the vector E? How will we get that? Okay, so given a vector having components ax I cap plus ay j cap plus az k cap. For example, suppose we had a vector which is having components like this: 6 I cap plus 3 j cap plus 6 k cap, suppose. So how much would be the magnitude of the vector here? So the magnitude we'll see is again given by the same formula, but along with the z component now also. And I'll show you a proof of this also very soon. You'll understand. So in this example, the magnitude of vector A, suppose we want to find out. So we'll just use this formula now. So the magnitude of the vector A will become square root of 6 square plus 3 square plus 6 square. So that is 36 plus 9 plus 36. Right? So that is how much? Square root of 81. So 9. Okay. So this is the magnitude of the vector E. Okay. So this is the next thing. After you understand component representation, the magnitude of the vector is given by this formula. Again, with the visualization of it in 3D, we'll be able to see why the magnitude is like that. But just note down the formula first. Pepper? What happened, Pepper? Come here. Pepper. Okay. So people, now let's look at how this formula actually comes. What is the justification of this? Okay. So let's look at the visualization of a vector with three components first. Okay. How to visualize a three-dimensional vector. Now, for example, let's talk about this one only. 6 I cap plus 3 j cap plus 6 k cap, this one. Okay. So let's do like this, that with respect to our 3D coordinate frame, let us first understand individually how each of the components looks like. Okay. So let's draw a 3D coordinate frame and let us understand what is the meaning of that individual component ax I cap, like 3 6 I cap here, ay j cap, like 3 j cap over here, and ez k cap, what that means. Okay. So if this is the origin of my coordinate frame, okay, of course you have to understand one more thing, that there is also the negative axis, so the z axis continues on this side and that's the negative z axis, the y axis continues down, that's the negative y axis, like this. Okay. But now imagine I have a point like this over here, a point E which is given by 6 comma 0 comma 0. Okay. So now you can see that the vector 6 I cap is nothing but the vector joining the origin with that point. Okay. So we can visualize this vector 6 I cap, or in general AX I cap, as this line. This is the vector OA. Okay, which is nothing but 6 I cap. Now similarly, if you visualize a point on the y axis, let's say point B, which is 0 comma 3 comma 0. Now if you see the vector OB, you see it is nothing but 3 j cap. It's like this. So this is your 3 j cap. And likewise, you can do the same for the z axis also now. So take a point on the z axis, which is, since our z component is 6, okay. So we have this point 0 comma 0 comma 6. Let's say this is point C. So then you can see that this vector OC is nothing but 6 k cap. Okay. Now in comparison to this, what is our vector? What is our vector E? Our vector E is the sum of these three things. It is 6 I cap plus 3 j cap plus 3 k cap or plus 6 k cap, whatever. So it is basically like this vector OA plus OB plus OC, like that. So what would that mean in this diagram? Let's try to understand. So let's now simultaneously from this diagram, let's construct another one where what we are doing is, so let's keep this diagram this way only. Okay. But okay. So now what we'll do in this case is we want to add these vectors OA, OB and OC. So starting from the origin, OA brings us to this point A over here. But now I have to add the vector OB to it. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to pick up this vector and place it here. Okay, so I'll reach this point here. This is my 3j cap. So it's no longer OB. So let's, but, and this point is no longer going to be B. It's going to be a different point. So let's say this point has now become, so I've reached some other point. Let's say D, और इसके coordinates क्या हो जाएंगे 6,3,0. So okay, and now to that I have to add the vector. So I have to construct the vector A, which is 6 I cap plus 3 j cap plus again 6 k cap. Okay, so I've already added these two. I've added 6 I cap plus 3 j cap. Okay, so that has brought me here. That has brought me from the point, from the origin to the point A and then to the point D. So I've reached the point D. Now I have to add one more vector to that. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to pick up this vector 6 k cap, but put it where? Put it here. Just a second. Yeah, I have to pick up this vector. Just a moment, guys. I'll share the program again. Yeah. So this vector now has to be placed here. Okay. So this is 6k cap, and this brings me to some other point, let's say E. So ये point के coordinates क्या हो जाते हैं, 6, 3, 6. So now in my diagram, what is the vector A, which is the sum of these three vectors? It is nothing but the vector joining my origin, because that's where I started from, to my final point here, which is E. Okay, so you can see that this vector is actually OA. Then to that I'm adding AD, and to that I'm adding DE. So what is the vector A? The vector A is nothing but the vector OE. This one is OE, okay, which is again little difficult to visualize in this diagram, but this vector is my vector E. Okay, so another way we could construct this is that if you visualize that situation we discussed again, a cuboid, and in this cuboid, take this point as your origin and this as your x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. So this point is our point A, let's say. Okay, this point is our point D, and this point is our point E. So you can see that this is the vector AXI cap, which in this case is 6I cap. Okay, then this is the vector AYJ cap, which is in our case 3J cap. Okay. And finally, this one over here is the vector AZK cap, which in our case is 6K cap. Okay. And so you can see that our vector A, which is the sum of these three vectors, is basically what it is, the diagonal which is cutting through the cuboid. Is cutting through the cuboid. So it's called the body diagonal of the cuboid. This is our vector A, which is 6I cap plus 3J cap plus 6K cap. Okay. So from this visualization, you can understand that the vector, which is the sum of the three components, it is basically geometrically how we construct it. It is the body diagonal, that is a diagonal going from one vertex through the body of the cuboid to the other vertex, and such a cuboid whose sides are what, AX, AY, and AZ. So that's how we can visualize the three-dimensional vector. Okay. So therefore, to visualize this vector, just understand it this way, that the vector A is the body diagonal, okay, which in my diagram is OE, of a cuboid with sides of AX, which was OA, AY, which was AD, and AZ, which was D. This kind of thing is the visualization of it. Okay, people, so hope you are clear with this. Just minimize this a little bit so you can go through the entire part. So you can also visualize it in terms of the three-dimensional space in which you are sitting. In the room in which you are occupied right now, just visualize the three mutually perpendicular edges of the room as your AXI cap, AYJ cap, and AZK cap. So then the body diagonal of the room, the one which is cutting through the room from the corner on your front left, no, bottom So you're sitting in the room right now like this. So this is the floor of the room. So just visualize the body diagonal that is going from this corner, which is the origin, to this corner, which is behind you, no, on the top left. Sorry, on the top right. No, from your bottom left corner on the front to the top right corner behind you. That particular diagonal, that is nothing but the vector ax I cap plus ay j cap plus az k cap. So this is finally the visualization. Have you understood this properly? Okay. Now, how to justify this fact that magnitude of the vector is given by that formula? Why magnitude of the vector should be square root of ax square plus ay square plus az square? Okay. This is because geometrically, okay, for a cuboid of sides, let's say L, B, and D, the body diagonal has a length of root of L square plus B square plus B square. So here for this vector, AX is like one side, AY is the other side, okay, and EZ is the third side. Okay, finish writing this down, then we'll discuss the formula of the magnitude of the vector again. Okay, so finished with this now. Okay, now let's look at the proof of this formula. Why body diagonal of a cuboid is given by this. I mean, it's a known formula in geometry, but there's a very easy way to prove it using Pythagoras theorem couple of times actually. Okay, so body diagonal is square root of length square plus breadth square plus, it's a depth square, like this. How do we prove this? Let's look at this. Okay, so this time we will visualize the cuboid from a slightly different angle. I mean, the body diagonal will visualize from a slightly different angle. Let's take this corner as our origin and this as A. So this length is L, then this point is our D. So this is the breadth, let's say. Okay, and from here this point is our E. So this is our D. This side is our D. Okay. So what is the vector? So if this is basically, like, this is our x axis, this is our y axis. Okay, and this is our z axis. We are seeing it from a slightly different angle. So this is your ax I cap, this is your ay j cap, like that. Okay, so now visualize the body diagonal, how that will look. It will be this. This is the body diagonal which we are trying to calculate how much it is. Okay, but in between also, let's keep track of this side. Okay, so in this diagram, first let us concentrate on triangle OAD. Okay, that is, in my diagram, that is this triangle, this triangle. So this angle is 90. Okay, this is in the XY plane. Okay. So in this triangle, what is happening? Angle OAD is equal to 90 degrees. So therefore, OD square should be equal to OA square plus AD square. So OD square should be equal to L square plus B square. So this is the formula that we get by analyzing this triangle. Okay. Now next up, let us analyze triangle ODE. Now this is the one you'll have to be a little careful in how you're analyzing. So it's this triangle. See this one. It's not coinciding with any of your XYZ planes. It's cutting through the this thing like this. It's cutting the cuboid through a plane that goes diagonally through it like this. So in this you will understand that this angle will be 90 in this triangle. Why? Let's understand. So in this triangle, angle ODE is equal to 90 degrees. Why? Because this side OD lies in the XY plane. Okay, and this side DE is parallel to the Z axis. You can see it's parallel to the Z axis. So therefore, OD is perpendicular to T. That's the reason why this happens. Okay, so in this triangle now you can see that OE square will be equal to OD square plus DE square. So this is our second equation. Now substitute the information from the first equation. So you'll get OE square is equal to L square plus B square plus D square, because of course DE is equal to. So from this you can see that your body diagonal length is of this much. Okay, so that is why, therefore, for a vector Ax I cap plus Ay j cap plus Az k cap, the vector A is nothing but the body diagonal of a cuboid made of edges. Okay, Ax I cap, Ay j cap, and Az k cap. So the lengths are like this. So magnitude of A becomes square root of Ax square plus Ay square plus Az square. This is the proof of this. Okay. So just make sure that you understand the geometry of these two triangles first. This triangle and this triangle. Once you are convinced about the geometry of these two triangles, try and visualize this properly. It will become clear to you. Okay. So this was the first triangle we talked about. This one. Okay. And the second triangle we talked about just now was, we talked about this triangle. In this triangle, this angle is 90 degrees. So this is like a double proof. It's giving you the proof geometrically also why the body diagonal of a cuboid is of length given by this formula, square root of L square plus B square plus D square, where L, B and D are the three mutually perpendicular edge lengths. And simultaneously that's showing you why the magnitude of a three-dimensional vector is also like that, because a 3D vector is visualized as nothing but the body diagonal of such a cuboid. Yeah. people, hope this is clear. Bhargav, what are you asking? The bottom left part. Yeah, this no. This is the magnitude of the vector. So it is cuboid is made of the edges. Edges are individually ax I cap, ay j cap, and az k cap. And you can see in this cuboid the edge OA is nothing but ax I cap. Similarly, if this point is B, so this is ay equal to B, and if this point is C, this is your az, which is equal to D. So the edges, mutually perpendicular edges, are like this. Okay. So you can also see that in terms of vectors, the vector OB is the same as this vector AD. They're both the same thing. They are both AY cap. Similarly, the vector OC is the same as the vector on the other side DE, which is AZK cap. So that's how we have constructed OE as the sum of AXI cap plus AYJ cap plus AZK cap. Is it clear, Bhargav? Okay, good. Okay, so this is a simple proof, but I mean, the proof is not so important for us. The more important thing is knowing the application of the formula that given a vector in 3D, how we can find its components. I mean, how we can find its magnitude. Okay, so that's by that formula. Okay, now next thing we'll see is very simple addition and subtraction in three-dimensional system. So this is just like we had seen addition of two dimensions. The same type of normal algebra type of principles apply. When you write the two vectors in component form and you add them, just take I cap common, so you'll get this. Then take j cap common, get this, and you take k cap common, so you'll get this. Okay, so this is how we add the two vectors. Yeah, yes, I'll give you some time, don't worry. Okay. And likewise, when we have this will just become ax minus bx I cap plus ey minus by j cap plus az minus bz k cap. Okay. So just write down these formulae which are pretty obvious and start working out this direct question. So given vector E is, let's say, 3 I cap plus j cap plus 2 k cap. Vector B is I cap plus 2 j cap plus k cap. And suppose vector C is 2 I cap minus j cap, and let's say minus 2 k cap. Then find A plus B. Okay. And the magnitude of A plus B. Then B plus C and the magnitude of B plus C. Okay. A minus C and magnitude of A minus C, and finally A minus B plus C and the magnitude of A minus B plus C. Okay. So just try out this question. Okay, so just apply the formula that we've written above. Right, so anybody got the answers for this? Yeah, yes, don't worry about the part above. I'll show it to you again. Okay. So let's just work out this question first. So for example, the first part, we want to calculate A plus B. So we'll just add the components of A and B. Na? So 3 plus 1 I cap plus 1 plus 2 J cap plus 2 plus 1 K cap. So that is becoming 4 I cap plus 3 J cap plus 3 K cap. Okay, so this is the vector A plus B. Okay, so that also means that its magnitude is the magnitude of this vector 4 I cap plus 3 J cap plus 3 K cap. So that is square root of 16 plus 9 plus 9. So that's how much now? 16 plus 9 will give you 25 plus 9 will give you 34. So square root of 34. That is becoming the first part's answer. Now similarly, let me pick up the third part. The second is very similar. So A minus C करना है. So this will be like AX minus CX I cap plus AY minus CY J cap plus AZ minus CZ K cap. So here when we substitute, it will become 3 minus 2 I cap plus 1 minus of minus 1. Okay. J cap plus 2 minus of minus 2 K cap. So this will become I cap plus 2 J cap plus 4 K cap. So this is becoming my vector A minus C. Okay. So now magnitude of A minus C will become magnitude of this vector I minus, oh sorry, I plus 2J plus 4K. So that is square root of 1 plus 4 plus 16. So that is square root of 21. So this becomes the magnitude of E minus C. Okay. Now likewise, let's work out the third part of the question. A minus B plus C. How we'll do this? So each of the components will do this way. A's x component is 3, minus B's is 1, plus C's is 2. So this is I cap. Similarly for J cap we have 1 minus 2 plus of minus 1. Okay, and for K cap similarly we have 2 minus 1 plus of minus 2. Okay, so next step this becomes 4 I cap, this becomes minus 2 J cap, and this becomes minus K cap. So this becomes this vector A minus B plus C. So further, the magnitude of this vector, this becomes magnitude of 4 I cap minus 2 J cap minus K cap, which you can work out will be the same as root 21. Okay, so these are each of these. Likewise, you can directly calculate this and see when we do B plus C, you'll have 1 plus 2, that is 3 I cap, then 2 minus 1, so that's 1, and then 1 minus 2, so that's minus this. Okay, so magnitude of b plus c will become magnitude of this vector, so that is root of 9 plus 1 plus 1, so that is root 11. Okay, so this is the general method of solving these type of questions. Okay, so we will conclude the lecture here today, and oh yes, before I forget, for Yash, this part that you have missed out. Okay. Any case, I'll be sending the recording pretty soon, so you can go through it. Okay. Bhargav, you're talking about kinematics. In kinematics, what value of g you have to take? That acceleration due to gravity, that g. Yes. So if it is not given in a question, now you should take the default value as 9.8. Otherwise, most questions it will be given to you that take approximate value 10. Okay. If the question doesn't give you, yeah, you can leave. That's done. Okay. So that's it for today's lecture, people. Just a couple of people might have missed out writing down few things. You can finish this. Yeah. So I'll be sending you an additional worksheet. So make sure you work out the questions of that before next week. Okay. So that's it. Good night, people. All the best.